conventional Web2 businesses, fintech businesses from adopting blockchain. I spoke to a lot of people, small business finance using diversified, decentralized audit and so on. So number of transactions goes up. Only the most heavy fees transactions will be included, and fees will keep climbing.
Hello everyone, welcome to the crypto show at Coins Capture. Today we have Swapnil from Newrl. Welcome, Swapnil.
Thanks, Malcolm, and great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, it's great to be here with you also. So Swapnil, we'll start with your introduction. So we'll have a brief about you, how you started your journey in the crypto and blockchain, and then we'll get to know about Newrl.
Certainly. So I am a graduate of IIT Bombay and I'm Ahmedabad. Worked in consulting for a while and then financial services for good 17, 18 years now. Last 4 years, I've been more into Web3, blockchain, crypto space. What brought me to it was the realization that traditional finance is not serving all sections of society equally well. And inclusive finance is still a pipe dream. On the other hand, the libertarian blockchain technology holds a lot of promise when it comes to expanding the reach and making it democratic when it concerns financial services and many other allied activities. So that's what got me thinking, and that's what made me set up ASCII and then Newrl.
Okay, that's great. So how you started with Newrl? Like, what was the cause and how you tell me about like how Newrl was and what is Newrl right now going on?
Sure. So when I first looked at smart contracts and Ethereum and the whole DeFi revolution, I was quite excited to see a decentralized loan and its execution and so on. But I tried to implement a conventional loan in that, like a small business loan, right? And it didn't work because you needed crypto to borrow in current DeFi. And if you already have crypto, then the only reason you'll borrow is to trade.
Right.
Because small business borrowing or inclusive finance, as I call it, that's not exactly feasible in DeFi as we see it today. So then that got me thinking, what's holding back conventional Web2 businesses, fintech businesses from adopting blockchain? I spoke to a lot of people, and they told the themes kept coming back to this idea of compliance, legal enforceability, identity, all of which are missing in current public blockchains like Ethereum, Polygon, and the likes. So, and Bitcoin's way further behind. So we thought we'll set up a layer 2 solution on top of Ethereum, saying we are the compliant solution for real world applications, but we also ran into the scalability challenge of Ethereum. So that's when we thought, let's just go back to drawing board and see if we can set up a scalable, compliant, and inclusive blockchain. And that's how the idea of Newrl was born.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Great to know about like how you have came down to the perspective of like the scalability and everything, which right now Ethereum is going through. So what all unique features would Newrl bring it to?
So you can think of it in, let's just say, the infrastructure level features, which are different, and then application layer, how does that make it better for real world applications? Because ultimately we are starting this journey outside in. We are not saying, here's the chain, it's really cool, and please build applications on top of it. We are saying, we have found out that the problems with adoption in blockchain for real world Web2 is XYZ, and we're solving it. And now let's see if we have solved it when you come to build on Newrl. So at a chain level, we want to firstly solve for identity. So on Ethereum, Polygon, or wherever else, you essentially are a 0x, some address like that. You have the private key to the address, and that's it. There's nothing else needed to transact on Ethereum. We think that's actually pretty tricky when it comes to real life. Crypto native works fine, but transacting, say, properties or bonds or loans or lease agreements, real life agreements on a blockchain, having anonymous wallets is pretty dangerous, to say the least. And in any case, any real business will say, my compliance requires me to know my customers, and a whole lot of details then follow that. So we are keeping identity at a blockchain level. And there is a whole lot of detail around how we are not compromising privacy, but yet keeping security and identifiability in the mix. So anti-money laundering compliant, but yet nobody knows the names of any wallets unless the user specifically shares it. So identity is pretty fundamental to us. Then we took the next step and said, how do we actually try to emulate the real world business interactions on blockchain? Rather than saying the real world should emulate the blockchain, we said the blockchain should serve the real world, which means in the real world, we don't actually deal with pure strangers. I mean, obviously, Web2 platforms have made it much easier through Airbnbs of the world and Ubers and all, but there is still some degree of trust, which is not zero, not one. It's somewhere in between. It varies from person to person, situation to situation, but we operate in this constantly evolving trust matrix, right? So we are trying to formalize that and say Newrl is a trust infrastructure on which people can interact with each other based on how their trust level has been assessed by their community, and keep modifying that trust score with each new transaction, for better or worse. So think of it as Ethereum meets WhatsApp, and then they meet credit bureau, right? So it's sort of combining all the aspects of it and say, instead of thinking of it as purely a technology infrastructure, think of it as a trust infrastructure. So when I'm talking to some person who's, let's say, borrowing from someone or raising money for her startup or whatever else they might be doing, I don't have to suddenly think of it as known person versus stranger. I can tap into the trust infrastructure and say, okay, this person is 3 lakhs removed from me or 5 lakhs removed from me, or independently of my location, I can see that this person has great track record in terms of adhering to her previous contracts and paying on time, etc., or she doesn't. That's also recorded on chain, being a immutable ledger. So the trust infrastructure then enables social interactions a lot more ease without having to rely purely on a judicial infrastructure as big businesses do. So then that makes it more democratic and inclusive, because every small business, every individual can rely on the history of behavior of the community.
Correct. So you mentioned about like particularly for the trust matter. So you have been saying that there would be more use cases related to the real life things, right? So you mentioned about like how the credibility on other platforms would be included with the credibility at Newrl. So how are you going to connect or merge with them? Like how it would be like how are you planning about this?
So in the first phase, the aim is to simply let individuals opt in and give each other trust scores. Like you join LinkedIn and add people in your network, right? Likewise, we expect people to show up and give trust scores to each other or receive trust scores from others with the intention that they can then form DAOs and other such stuff on the fly. And that's the retail approach. And then the business B2B approach is that application layer partners will create specific solutions on Newrl. We already have 9 of them signed up to create solutions in agribusiness finance, carbon credit trading and provenance, startup equity, crowdfunding, remittances, small business finance using diversified, decentralized audit and so on. So these are already there, and we want to expand on that also further. So users will come through that approach as well. And so their trust scores will be established and modified based on both these approaches, the direct as well as through business approach.
Right. So once when the B2B segment, like the businesses will come down to your platform and they will create some solutions. As you said, there are already 9 to 10 in pipeline, right? So they would also bring a lot of users to the platform basically. So how a user can start, or like is it right now live or it's in a test phase, alpha phase basically?
So we are launching the testnet next week, either Tuesday next week, which is I think 27th. And we are also inviting users to create wallets on the chain, and it's easily accessible at wallet.newrl.net. Just to be clear, in a standard Web3 spirit, this is one of the many wallets. So anybody can create a wallet on Newrl. So it's not like it's exclusive to us. It's just an easy gateway into the chain for a typical user who doesn't want to write codes and all that. So they can quickly go to wallet.newrl.net, check out the create a new wallet, add their KYC, etc., become compliant with AML regulations, and then explore the chain with their friends, with other applications which are already set up on Newrl. They can even issue tokens of their own. In the testnet, it's anyway free of cost. It's easy enough to try anything and everything. And in the mainnet, which will come 2 to 3 weeks after the testnet, then people can actually use the same wallet with added security and start to access various token marketplaces, as well as decentralized autonomous organizations that they can actually set up with their friends or join what have been set up by others. So one of the key things for us is for individual users, no code decentralized autonomous organizations or no code DAOs. So you don't need to know Solidity to create a DAO and invite others to join.
Yeah, that is needed, I suppose. Right now, there are many DAOs been created, but most of don't know like about the Solidity and the dev part basically. So this could change a bit, and this could help out DAOs to create community and generate more users. So yeah. About those things, as you mentioned, like about, are you planning for your own token for Newrl? Like,
Yeah. So I want to say that with the caveat. So we want to create a token, as in we are going to have a token called Newrl, NWRL. That will actually have a seed round in October, November, a private round in March next year, and a public issue sale in September next year, July, August, September next year. The transaction fees on Newrl is payable by both Newrl tokens as well as stable coins. So we are not insisting that you have to buy our token to pay transaction fees on our chain. And that way the transaction fees can remain relatively stable. They don't have to be reliant on the rapidly varying price of one token. So that's the crucial thing. And Newrl token obviously is also implicitly a governance token also. So gradually the control of the Newrl code base and foundation will go to the collective owners of Newrl tokens. We will remain a key part of it, but it will become a decentralized governance.
Okay. And what about the fees, like Ethereum right now? If you can see that, if you have to transact 1 ETH or 10 ETH from a particular address to different wallets, basically. So the fee is a lot high. So
Yes.
are you solving about those part also in Newrl?
Absolutely. So we call that, so we have 3 tenets, right? Scalable, compliant, inclusive. So compliant, we talked about, regulatorily, we are sound, and KYC, anti-money laundering, identity, and so on. We're also inclusive because we want to, even at a node level, include a lot of democratic approaches to involve people rather than keep it technocratic. The crucial thing is scalability, which is the very first tenet. And part of the reason we didn't build as a layer 2 on Ethereum, because we believe Ethereum has an oil shake problem, that the commodity you own, Ether, is valuable because everybody is using it. But then it becomes such high demand commodity that it starts to become a major expense for your users.
Right.
Then they say, okay, what are the alternatives? So then they'll go to solar power or fracking and other such approaches. And your token price then drops because nobody's using oil anymore.
Right.
So that the problem is essentially because of what we refer to as the hyper redundant architecture of Ethereum and other such chains. So in the phase 1, Bitcoin and Ethereum did a great job of proving that decentralized security is possible. Because before that, nobody would have believed it in theory. Practically, they showed that billions of dollars could be transacted just by decentralized networks. But time has now come to make them inherently scalable, not through some some layer 2s and so on, because eventually Polygon will also have the same problem, that Matic will become too expensive, it's too congested. It's inherent in their very nature. And the reason for that is, if there are 500 nodes in Ethereum, each transaction is validated 500 times, each block is validated 500 times, which means that if the number of transactions goes up, block size is finite. So number of transactions goes up, only the most heavy fees transactions will be included, and fees will keep climbing.
Right.
So you make the 500 nodes into 1,000 nodes, the capacity of Ethereum doesn't double. It simply remains the same with even more compute resources spent on the same thing. The logic they gave is that this is scalable. Oh, sorry, this is more secure. But frankly, after about 200-300 nodes, the security improvement with each next 100 nodes is not all that much. Whether you have 5,000 nodes or 8,000 nodes, you're secure any which way. You're secure already with 1,000 nodes. Polygon today has only 100 nodes, and still it is considered secure. So why should we be so hyper-redundant that everybody does everything? So we took a step back and said, let's not go after this, everybody doing everything logic. Let's take inspiration from human brain, which is why the name Newrl. When we say take inspiration from human brain, we mean brain is actually one of the most beautifully designed decentralized machine. The nature designed it so it's very efficient. Its energy efficiency is off the charts. And computers are far more inefficient than brain. With so little energy, it can do so much. And in a decentralized manner, that damage to one part of the brain makes other parts of the brain take over that function. So there is nothing like a site function here, and then that goes away and brain can't process it. So we wanted to emulate that architecture, saying, let's specialize, but in a flexible manner. So we use distributed computing to make sure that each transaction is not checked by everyone, but there is a degree of randomness in how that transaction is validated. So you can't game it either. And the fees is variable. So today I can't go to Ethereum and say, my transaction is just a simple data disclosure. I don't want it to be checked by 5,000 nodes. Can just 50 nodes check it and approve it? There is no way to do that. It's all either 5,000 or nothing. We change that and say, if your transaction is only sending somebody $10, then you're probably okay with just 20 nodes checking it. Randomly selected nodes, so you can't game it still, but it's still only 20 nodes. Whereas if you're transferring $500 million worth property to someone, you're okay paying $100 for it or $500 for it if it came to that, and you want the whole network to verify it. So that becomes the choice of the user then, instead of being imposed on them. So we use distributed storage and compute to achieve brain-like efficiency with all this.
Great. So that's a lot of things which Newrl would be changing. So would you like to discuss about the Newrl tokenization, like how it's distributed? And like...
Yes, certainly. Absolutely.
So just a short description, like how Newrl tokenization has been distributed.
So Newrl, like any public blockchain, rewards its validators. In Bitcoin, they're called miners. In proof of stake, they're called validators. So we are following the terminology of validators. But people who create blocks, right, and validate them, they are rewarded. And so starting reward is 1,000 Newrl tokens. It keeps going down to by a ratio of 2/3 every year or so. So in 20 years, about 4 to 5 billion new tokens will be created, Newrl tokens. The lifetime cap is 10 billion tokens. It will never exceed that. There's an upper limit built into the code, so that can never be exceeded. And there are pre-mining tokens of 3 billion with the company ASCII and 2 billion with Newrl Foundation. The Newrl Foundation tokens are not to be sold; they are only to be given as grants and other promotional activities to bring users on Newrl and to promote adoption of the technology. The ASCII tokens are to be sold for fundraising in seed, private, public sale, and then subsequently it will gets distributed. Whatever is left is sent to the team, and at some point it will all be owned by individuals / companies away from this.
Great. So what are the future goals of Newrl? Like what have you planned right now, or like are you still working on it?
So our proofs of concept have gone very well. We are likely to put assets worth about $150 million and loans worth about $50 to $75 million on chain immediately within the month of the launch of mainnet. So our 9 application dev partners are already ready with all that. They're just waiting for the mainnet. So once it goes live, that will all come on board. So we want to now take it to $1 billion in assets, which is about 10 times, and about 100 partners, so to speak, and at least 10,000 users who are independently shown up on the trust network, as we call it, to do various things, DAOs and stuff like that. So we're launching some cool experiments like DAOs for alumni organizations like IIT Bombay and so on. And we'll do a few other cool experiments in decentralized fiat currencies and stuff like that. So that's the immediate plan. Then the distributed compute is the phase 2 of our work. That will also kickstart in a big way. And in terms of geographies, we're currently in India. We want to definitely be present in a big way in US and Europe and potentially in Middle East.
Correct, correct. What do you think about the future of blockchain in India?
I am actually quite bullish from the perspective of users. I think users are very keen to try out various things, and even if the trading mentality subsides a bit gradually with the crypto winter, the curiosity is very high amongst youngsters and older people as well. But the regulations are yet to catch up to the fact that blockchain is not cryptocurrencies. And there is a whole lot that can be done by blockchain technology, which does not involve challenging the central bank or banking infrastructure. You can simply tokenize assets and use them as collateral in borrowing, while the loans are still given out in fiat and returned in fiat, right? So that has no implication whatsoever on speculative trading or money laundering or anything of that sort. We're just making something simpler, which is already approved and compliant in the pre-crypto world. So I do hope that the regulations separate the two and say the speculative, untraceable cryptocurrencies on one hand and efficient implementations of blockchain technology on the other, and promote the latter at least, whatever be their attitude towards the former. They don't sort of club the two and constrain both. If that's solved, then I do think that there is a lot of talent, potential user base, and needs. There's so many people financially excluded in India. Imagine if we could just serve even like 1/10 of them using the new technology, it will be so much more socially useful, if nothing else. So yeah, the bright days ahead.
Yeah, correct. I think if regulations are done correctly, then India could be the blockchain hub in the coming times.
Absolutely. We got everything. We got the talent, we got the users, and we got a lot of potential application demonstrations.
Correct. It was great. It was great to know about Newrl. Great to know about the things you're doing at Newrl.
Thanks.
Thank you, Swapnil. Any closing thoughts for our users?
I would say that focus on the decentralized part of the blockchain world rather than the trading and speculation part of it, because just like internet, this is going to be a revolutionary technology for our time, and I think next 10 years will show a lot of interesting experiments come about.
Great. So thank you, Swapnil. It was nice to have points capture. So with the closing thoughts, we'll conclude that I think Bitcoin and blockchain, or like crypto and blockchain, would be a different perspective. And in coming times, India would think about the regulations and everything.
Absolutely. Thanks, Malcolm, so much for having me over.